Culture of Change, Ely's 8 Conditions. So what we want to ask ourselves is this question: is your school innovation friendly? And by that we mean specific things that Donald Ely has taught us. So he's got 8 conditions that need to be met to make your school innovation friendly. And so when you're thinking about your specific innovation, think about these 8 conditions. Doesn't mean that every single one of them has to be met for change to happen, but the more of them that are met, the more likely it is that change will happen. And so these are the 8 conditions, and we'll go through them one by one. First of all, dissatisfaction. This isn't a general sense of unhappiness like this picture indicates. Instead, it's that things could be better. If teachers believe that the way they do things now, the way things are now, is the best that they could be, then they aren't dissatisfied, and that's a problem. Change is less likely to happen. We want to have people who aren't happy with the way things are if we want to make change. Second is knowledge and skills, and knowledge and skills exist. We're talking about having knowledge throughout the institution, but then getting that knowledge to the people who need to implement the change. So if you want to teach people how to use a smartboard, if they don't know the software involved in that, if they don't know some pedagogical skills about using that, then they won't be able to make that change easily. And so your job would then be to help them gain those skills. Resources. Are there resources? If you're trying to get people to use smartboards and there's one per grade level, that's going to be kind of hard. If every teacher has one, obviously that makes it easier. And so resources are a variety of things, but most simply we can just think about, is there really easy access to the innovation that you want to make happen, keeping in mind that the harder it is for somebody to do something and get access to it, the less likely they are to adopt that innovation. Time. Time is always a huge one. And we're talking about all kinds of time. Do teachers have time in their classroom? Do they have time in their planning? Is there time for this? And there's never enough time, but sometimes there are things that you can do to help organize people's time, to help alleviate time roadblocks. You as an individual may not be able to do that, but your principal may be able to create space for there to be time through substitutes or something else. But time is always a very difficult one for people to have, because as teachers we know we never have time. Rewards and incentives. This is kind of a tricky one. And I put 4 pictures up here because rewards and incentives can be monetary. That's the first thing we think of, is somebody paying me to do this. But it also could just be recognition. It could be that gold star. It could be something as simple as food at a meeting. If you're trying to get teachers to show up to your training session or your meeting or to use the technology, then being able to feed them, that's a way to at least get them in the door. And many times the main incentive is that your students are learning more, but just to get them started, you probably need to get them something that can help them move forward and get them thinking that they're being rewarded. But again, that could be recognition. It also could be something like, as the bottom right picture points out, access to new technology. So maybe people who are trying stuff are the first ones to get access to something new when something comes along. So it's not a tangible reward that you can say, oh, you're going to get this, but maybe it's a less tangible reward that the innovative people tend to get access to innovations. Participation is expected and buy-in. This is a key one, and by participation we are talking about getting people involved in the decision-making process. This isn't just some principal saying, you must do this, you must participate. This is about people feeling involved in the decision-making process. They have some control over this. You can't always give them complete control, but you want to give them as much control as you can, as much of a voice in the decision-making process, and then they buy into this innovation and they're more likely to want to use it if they've had a voice in that decision-making process. Commitment, and this is largely talking about from the administration. So when we talk about commitment, we want basically our administration to show that they're committed to this, that this isn't something they're going to pull the plug on soon. If you get, for example, a subscription to some software and they're saying, well, maybe we're going to keep this, maybe we'll try it out. If they do it on a trial basis, that's fine. But if they say, yeah, well, we'll see how this goes, and maybe we'll keep it, maybe we won't, people are less likely to get on board. Why should I try something that's probably going to go away in a few months or a year? So we want to really see that commitment, and this commitment can be subtle. One of my stories is when I was teaching high school, I had a teacher who was trying to start a new innovative class, and that teacher, this science teacher, trying to develop this class, and it didn't get enough students, and so that class had to get canceled for very practical reasons. But then that teacher ended up having to teach in school suspension, which was the worst assignment in the school. And so that showed a lack of commitment. It showed the opposite of a reward for trying something innovative. And even though there were good reasons to do that, you can't run a school on a bunch of classes with 7 people in them, but still the administration might have been more mindful of the message that sent, that innovation is not welcome here, even though that wasn't the intended message. And finally, leadership. Leadership is really important, and here we're talking about leadership at all levels, and that's why I subtitled that as Is That You? Because we're talking about the leadership to actually just keep things going. It's not necessarily the administrative leadership. Certainly you want leadership from your administration, but it could be you at the leadership level, at the teacher level, taking the lead on this, making sure that people are keeping this innovation in mind, that the trainings continue to happen, that people are talking about it. It takes somebody to lead that, even if everybody's kind of excited about it. If they don't get some pokes and prods from somebody leading the way, then that can be limiting. So those are Eli's 8 conditions, and you're going to think about how they apply to your school and your innovation, and you're going to talk to teachers about these conditions and your innovation, and think about which of these you might be able to influence in your school to make your school more innovation friendly toward the innovation you're trying to accomplish.